Jonathan was a handsome young man with a shy smile and hands marked by labor, each callus telling a quiet story of effort and hope. He moved with a calm, unhurried grace, like someone who wasn't in a rush, but knew exactly where he was going. There was a quiet beauty about him, the kind that doesn't shout, but slowly enchants, like a flower blooming at the break of dawn. By day, he was a gardener, but not just any gardener. Jonathan tended gardens with an almost poetic tenderness. He pruned rose bushes as if sketching verses in the air. He planted daisies like someone offering a warm embrace to the world. He held the earth in his hands with reverence, as if holding something sacred. And when he watered the flowers, it was as though he were whispering an apology to nature for every sorrow the world might have caused. The flowers seemed to understand him, as if they recognized a kind soul among thorns and petals. Wherever Jonathan laid his hands, something bloomed beyond the soil, something unseen yet deeply alive. At night, he traded his gardener's gloves for an insulated delivery bag and climbed onto his old red motorbike to deliver pizzas. The bike was old, noisy, but loyal. The night wind brushed against his tired face, but his eyes still held a spark, the light of someone who carried quiet dreams in his chest, even when life around him felt like nothing but routine. He rode down streets lit by soft yellow lamps, past silent neighborhoods, and glimpsed through windows warm homes, distant laughter. People gathered, and inside him, something longed to be part of a story like that. But Jonathan was patient. He knew how to wait. He believed that life, in its quiet and mysterious way, held surprises for hearts that stayed sincere. And so he kept planting flowers, delivering pizzas, and dreaming, until one day, something would finally bloom within him too. During the day, Jonathan put on his simple green uniform, picked up the toolbox from the small landscaping company's shed, and set off toward the wealthy neighborhoods of the city. Working in the gardens of grand mansions felt like stepping into other worlds. Tall iron gates, stone paths, fountains with delicate statues, and exotic plants that seemed to come from distant, enchanted realms. Everything was beautiful, but untouchable. He arrived early, often before the sun had warmed the stone walkways. The work began in silence, only the hum of the lawnmower, the splash of water from the watering can, the soft snip of branches being trimmed with care. Jonathan knew that every leaf removed required precision. One wrong cut could undo months of growth. There were rules, expectations, and no room for mistakes. His hands ached, sometimes from the weight of the tools, other times from hours crouched beneath the blazing sun. Sweat ran down his face, and soil clung to his arms like a second skin. On rainy days, the mud stuck to his shoes, and his gloves turned soaked and cold. On scorching afternoons, the fabric of his uniform burned against his back, but he never complained. It wasn't easy tending to someone else's beauty. Jonathan cared for gardens that weren't his, nurtured flowers he'd never pick, in homes where he was rarely even greeted. And yet, He gave everything. He arranged decorative stones as if they belonged to his own yard. He brushed away dry leaves with the same tenderness as someone clearing the memories of a loved one. Sometimes, while watering a row of lavender in front of one of those grand silent houses, he would wonder, "Does anyone notice what I plant here? Or do they only see the finished beauty, as if it bloomed all on its own?" Still, he kept going, because there was something in this work that no one else could see, a kind of quiet poetry he kept just for himself. When he watched a rose bloom for the first time after weeks of care, or when a hummingbird hovered above flowers he had nurtured with his own hands, his heart filled with a peace no amount of money could ever buy. And it was this peace he carried with him into the night as he changed clothes in the company locker room, climbed onto his old red motorbike, and rode out for his second shift as a pizza delivery guy. Jonathan knew life doesn't always bloom quickly, but if you plant with love one day, even the weariest heart can begin to blossom again. With the tight wages from his job as a gardener, Jonathan needed a second shift just to keep up with the bills. So, as the afternoon faded into evening, he left behind the manicured gardens of the mansions and changed into a different kind of uniform. A thick jacket, simple pants, and the thermal bag he carried with care. He climbed onto his old red motorbike, one that knew every street and shortcut in the city, and rode off into the night, now as a pizza delivery driver. No two nights were ever the same. There were the rainy ones, when he rode hunched over, trying to shield as much of himself as he could from the downpour. His helmet visor would fog up, his gloves soaked through with cold water, and the tires slipped slightly on slick corners. With each sudden break, his heart pounded, and he'd think, "Just make it home safe." Then there were the nights with biting wind, when the cold seemed to sink straight into his bones. The city felt quiet and damp, the streets nearly empty. Jonathan carried the loneliness like an invisible weight across his shoulders. Still, he pushed on, up steep hills, through dark neighborhoods, along sidewalks with broken streetlights. Delivering pizza might have sounded simple, but it took courage. He crossed dangerous streets, passed through zones where not even the dogs barked anymore. Sometimes he was met with kindness, a warm "good evening," a smile, other times not even a glance. Just a hand snatching the box from his bag, a door closing before a "thank you" could be said. And even so, he kept going. Because he was carrying more than just food. He delivered hope, wrapped in warm crust. He knew that behind each gate, there, was a family waiting, a child peeking through the window, a dinner table about to feel whole. And in the quiet pauses between deliveries, when he leaned on his motorbike by the side of the road, watching the reflections of streetlights dance in puddles on the asphalt, he'd wonder, will all this rushing ever lead me to a better place? But deep inside him, a flame burned, small but steady. The flame of someone who still believes, of someone who, even tired, chooses not to give up. Because Jonathan knew life demands patience, and he was a master at waiting for spring, even through the harshest winters. Linda lived in a charming one-story house with flower-filled windows and cream-colored walls. Nestled in a quiet neighborhood of the city, she shared the space with two longtime friends, Julia, a school teacher, and Tina, a graphic designer. The three of them had been close since their university days, and despite the rush of adult life, they kept a promise to care for one another like a little invented family. By day, each followed her own routine: work, errands, traffic, hurried coffee. But at night, when shoes were left by the door and hair tied up in loose buns, their secret ritual would begin. They always came up with something to do together. It could be trying a new recipe, crafting something by hand, watching old romantic films, or simply sharing a smooth glass of wine with long, meandering conversations and honest laughter. Sometimes they danced barefoot in the living room, swaying to music only they knew. On other nights, they'd wander out to hidden cafes around the city, as if in search of more poetry in everyday life. Linda was the dreamiest of the three. She had a tender eye for life's small beauties: the scent of fresh basil, the moonlight reflecting off glass cups, the soft tapping of rain on the roof. She worked as an editorial assistant at a publishing house, always carrying a little notebook filled with scattered sentences, story ideas, and dreams that felt like wishes whispered to the universe. But there was something not even her friends knew. In recent months, Linda had begun to feel a strange emptiness in her chest, a kind of longing for something that hadn't happened yet. Sometimes, she would wake in the middle of the night with the quiet, aching sense that someone was waiting for her somewhere, someone she hadn't met yet. It was a Thursday night, one of those evenings when work fatigue blends with the quiet wish to stop thinking altogether. Linda and her friends arrived home almost at the same time, as if their bond ran on an invisible clock of affection. After a light afternoon rain, the air was cool and damp, perfect for cozy socks, light blankets, and silly laughter indoors. "What if we started a new series tonight?" Tina suggested, already curled up with a pillow on the couch. "Only if it comes with pizza," Julia replied in her usual straightforward way. Linda smiled. This was one of the week's small joys, sharing the couch with people who understood her silences, choosing a show without hurry, and letting the world outside fade away. They opened the app, browsed through the endless options, laughed at the strangest toppings, and placed the order. Just then, the rain began again, falling softly like a whisper on the roof tiles. Across the city, Jonathan, now wearied by his third delivery in the drizzle, received another notification on his phone. Another address, another street, another door. It was a familiar address, but tonight, something would be different. When he parked his bike in front of the house, he noticed the little flower pots hanging on the porch, the warm light glowing through the windows, and the muffled sound of a romantic comedy coming from inside. He knocked gently, holding the still hot pizza with both hands. Linda was the one who answered. And in that moment, eyes adjusting to the dim night, with the steam of the pizza rising between them and the hum of soft music in the background, Jonathan and Linda saw each other for the first time. It was brief, a glance that lasted less than a minute. yet left an odd feeling in both of them, as if they recognized each other from a forgotten dream. "Good evening." "Pizza for Linda?" he asked, voice calm, smile shy. The one he reserved for the kindest customers. "Yes, that's me," she replied, reaching for her wallet a little too late, as if she too was trying to understand that moment. Their fingers brushed for a split second as the box changed hands. She smiled. He smiled back, and then the door closed slowly. But the sense that something new had just begun lingered in the air, like the soft scent of flowers Jonathan often planted. The next morning, Linda woke up slower than usual. Her alarm rang at the same time as always. Messages from the work group were already piling up, and the neighbor's coffee aroma drifted in through the crack in the window. Everything was the same. But inside her, something had shifted. As she brushed her teeth in front of the mirror, her thoughts wandered. Images rose without warning. The delivery man's dark eyes, the quiet way he handed her the pizza, the brief, unexpected touch of their fingers, and that smile. Shy, almost hidden, but filled with a kindness that was hard to forget. She tried to focus. The day would be hectic, meetings in the morning, project deadlines until late afternoon. She dressed in a hurry, but paused for a second. When putting on perfume, she looked at the bottle in her hands, and without meaning to, smiled to herself. "What a silly thought," she whispered. But it wasn't silly. There was something about him, and she felt it, like someone sensing rain before the sky even darkens. On her way to work, between one metro station and the next, Linda found herself staring out the window. Lost in thought, her friends' voices from the night before echoed in her mind. None of them seemed to have noticed the exchanged glances. Was it just her? Or maybe he looked at everyone like that when delivering pizza. She didn't know. But there was a mystery in the air, an invisible thread tugging her thoughts back to that brief moment at the door. During lunch, she barely tasted the food. She was there in body, but part of her mind wandered through daisies, raindrops, and the soft hum of a motorcycle approaching. It was strange, thinking so much about someone whose name she didn't even know. But it was stronger than her, as if, in some silent way, that fleeting encounter had planted seeds in her heart. And now, without meaning to, something had begun to bloom. It was Saturday night, and the house was full of feminine voices getting ready. Perfumes mingled in the air, heels tapped against the wooden floor, and laughter echoed down the hallway. Linda's friends, always lively, always up for something, were putting on the finishing touches for their evenings out. One was heading to the movies with her boyfriend, the other to a cozy bar with a new crush of the week. "Aren't you coming with us?" Tina asked, fastening her golden earrings. "Not tonight. I want a quiet one," Linda replied with a soft smile and distant eyes. They left a trail of perfume and laughter behind them. When the door closed, silence filled the space like a blanket draped over Linda's heart. She turned on a soft lamp, curled up on the couch with a blanket over her feet, and opened the movie app, but didn't really know what she wanted to watch. In fact, she wasn't sure she wanted to watch anything at all. It felt like her mind was somewhere else, or maybe in another night. The memory of the previous Thursday returned uninvited. The pizza delivery, the delivery man with the shy smile and kind eyes. Jonathan. She still didn't know his name, but in her heart he already had one. The gardener of pizzas, she thought, smiling to herself like someone cherishing a beautiful secret. Without realizing it, she opened the food delivery app. Her finger hovered over the pizza button, hesitating. Would he be working tonight? Would he be the one delivering again? It's just pizza, she told herself. But deep down, she knew it wasn't just that. It was the silent hope of seeing him again, a quiet invitation to fate. And then, with her heart beating just a little faster, Linda tapped, "Confirm order." It was nearly 9 at night when the sound of a motorbike echoed down the quiet street. Linda was already standing, as if she felt it was him. Her heart beat a little faster, and her hands tried to appear calm, despite the nervous anticipation hiding in every movement. The doorbell rang. She took a deep breath, adjusted her hair like someone who didn't want to look like they cared too much, and opened the door. It was him, Jonathan. Their eyes met for a second that seemed to stretch beyond time. There was a silent recognition between them, as if both knew this wasn't just another pizza delivery. "Good evening," he said, voice low and husky from a long day, but still kind. "Hi. You again," Linda replied, her shy smile slipping out before she could stop it. He handed her the pizza, and their fingers brushed again. This time, not just a quick, practical motion. There was a pause, a small, quiet moment where the world seemed to hold its breath just to let this happen. "Do you live here?" Jonathan asked, his tone casual but his gaze a little distant, like the question had slipped out before he thought it through. "I do. With 2 friends. But tonight, I'm alone," she answered naturally, then bit her lip, unsure if she'd said too much. Jonathan nodded, a faint smile forming, helmet still in hand, delivery bag slung over his shoulder, his gaze steady, but something softer had crept in, as if that open door had also opened something inside him. "I work around here, taking care of gardens, and I deliver pizzas at night. It's a lot, but it's what I've got for now," he admitted, a little embarrassed, like someone trying to explain his struggle. "Gardens, that's beautiful," Linda said, genuine admiration in her voice. "It must be amazing to see something bloom after. All the effort, right?" Jonathan looked at her, surprised. No one ever said that kind of thing. No one ever noticed. "Yeah, it's exactly like that." She held the pizza box but didn't rush to close the door. There was something there, an invisible field between them, full of possibility, full of unspoken things. "Thanks for the delivery." In the conversation, Linda said, with a soft look, "I should be the one thanking you." "Good night," Jonathan replied, taking a step back, still watching her. "Good night, Jonathan," she said, reading the faded name tag hanging from his bag. He smiled, surprised, and in that smile, there was something more, something that promised to return. The days passed with a different kind of lightness. Jonathan, between one delivery and the next, couldn't stop thinking about Linda. Her smile, the way she talked about gardens, the sincerity in her gaze. It was as if she had unknowingly watered something inside him. Linda, too, often found herself distracted, her thoughts drifting to the delivery guy with the calm voice and attentive eyes. She never expected to find poetry in a pizza delivery. But that's exactly what happened. Then, on a Saturday afternoon, Jonathan did something that wasn't part of his busy routine. Before starting his night shift, he stopped by a flower shop along the way and picked out a small bouquet of daisies with a single rose in the center, like a miniature garden, full of meaning. He found her address in the pizza shop's system. Maybe it was wrong, but what he felt was too genuine to ignore. That night, Linda heard the sound of the motorcycle again. She hadn't ordered pizza. When she opened the door, her heart skipped a beat. "Hey," Jonathan said, with the warmest smile she had ever seen on him. "Hi," she replied, surprised and charmed. He held out the flowers. He didn't say anything at first. He just let the gesture speak. "They're for you. I didn't know exactly what to bring, but I thought these suited you." Linda brought a hand to her mouth, laughing softly, moved. "They're beautiful. And you showed up without pizza?" "This time I only brought flowers," he said, smiling. "And courage." She laughed again, her heart light. "Courage for what?" "To ask you if you'd like to go out with me sometime. Nothing fancy, just a walk, maybe some ice cream. Something simple, like flowers on a sunny day." Linda didn't hesitate. There was tenderness in the invitation. There was truth. "I'd love to," and that's how it began. It wasn't a loud love, nor one born from grand promises. It was a love planted slowly, watered with smiles, growing in the details, in conversations about flowers, in simple outings, in goodnight messages. Jonathan and Linda found in each other what they didn't even know they were looking for: a refuge, a comfortable silence, a safe space to bloom. Time passed like the seasons in a well-tended garden. What started with flowers delivered at the door grew deep roots and open hearts. Jonathan and Linda learned to walk together. He showing the value of small things, she bringing color and lightness to difficult days. Linda began visiting Jonathan at his gardener's work. She watched him prune rose bushes with the same care he touched her. He said she was like a rare flower, needing love, time, and truth. And she thought he was like the earth, steady, quiet, but capable of making everything bloom. One late afternoon, Jonathan took Linda to a garden he had created himself, hidden behind a countryside house he cared for with devotion. Amid daisies, lavender, and small lanterns hanging from the trees, he knelt down, pulled a small ring with a flower engraved on it from his pocket, and said with misty eyes, "You are the most beautiful thing that's ever blossomed in my life. Will you be mine forever?" Linda didn't answer with words. She jumped into his arms, laughing and crying, and their kiss sealed the answer. The wedding was exactly as they dreamed. In the same garden where it all began. Friends and family sat among rows of flowers, and the altar was simple but magical, an arch covered with ivy, roses, and lavender. The petals on the ground told their story. Jonathan walked down the aisle with hands marked by work, the same hands that had tended many gardens, now ready to care for a love eternal. Linda appeared through the trees like someone blossoming. In spring, a light lace dress, a serene smile, and in her eyes the sparkle of someone who believed in love. In their vows, he said, "I promise you a love like the seasons, constant, even if it changes with time. I promise you a garden, even on dry days, and cool shade, even in the heat of the world." She answered, "I promise you deep roots, open branches. I promise you laughter, comfort, the flower, and the wind. Our love is good soil, and it will always bloom." After the "I do," the flowers seemed more alive, the birds more in tune, and even the wind danced around them. And so Jonathan and Linda began eternity, with flowers, promises, and a love born between earth and sky. They lived happily ever after, because where there is care, beauty grows, and where there is love, everything blooms.